Blessings, beloveds. Let's talk about the sun ingressing into Aries. Quite a special time of the year for many, many different reasons. But the sun ingressing into Aries is literally why we have the tropical zodiac that we actually use. So it's esoterically, spiritually, astrologically, it's a very powerful time of the year. It's literally the time of the sun being almost reborn, if you like. The sun is exalted in the sign of Aries as well. We know that we have Easter during this time, and whether you are a Christian or a non-Christian or affiliated with Christianity or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. It's the symbolism that actually is really, really important relative to the rebirth occurring. It's a very, very powerful time. Now, in the southern hemisphere for us, we go into autumn, and for you guys, you're going into spring, which is such a beautiful, time of the year. Personally, I love all the seasons anyway. They're all very meaningful, symbolic, significant, powerful in their own right. And we just tune into them accordingly, depending on where we are. People often have questions or debates around, well, how can it be, the sun is ingressing into Aries and in the southern hemisphere we're going into autumn? It kind of seems paradoxical, but it's not. It really isn't. And look, I am a sun in Aries, so perhaps for me, I can feel it a bit stronger maybe than other people who are not Aries. I mean, I don't know. But certainly, even though we are going into autumn here, I can certainly speak for myself. I can feel the vibration of the rebirth, the new birth, the new beginnings, the clearing out, the spring cleaning, if you like, even though it's not spring for us. As a matter of fact, yesterday, this took me about, I would say, 5 hours in total to do, and it was quite a task, a tedious task, which was exhausting, but incredibly beneficial. And this may sound superficial, but it's not. And it's just relevant to the energy of the sun going into Aries and clearing things out. Now, I tend to do this relatively frequently throughout the year anyway, but there are certain points where something in me gets stirred up, gets activated, and I take this to the absolute hilt. So what I did yesterday was I do use Facebook, the social media platform, which I have been using for many, many years. And in my messenger section where I receive messages, I had messages sitting there from 9 years. Okay, 9 years of messages. So I get a lot of people messaging me, and this is actually on my personal profile, not even my professional profile. Anyway, I deleted everything. And unfortunately, Facebook doesn't give you the ability to just kind of highlight and click one button and you're done. And because if it did that, it would have saved me 5 hours of my time, my life, but it didn't. So anyway, I had to go through each message individually and click delete, basically. That's why it took 5 hours. But it was a very interesting process and journey for me because I went back as far as 9 years, as I said, and there were a lot of things in there that were quite not fruitful for me and my journey in my life, and things that I had forgotten about. But energetically, those things were still there. They were still attached to me, you see. And so by clearing all that out, I did this massive release, massive cleansing, purging, letting go, and clearing. I literally only have about 9 messages now in my inbox, 9. And those are from people that I actually personally know in my life, like people I actually know. Anyway, that was triggered from something deep inside me. It wasn't a plan that I had that I sat there and said, I'm going to do this today. It instinctively just happened. I was driven to do it. And that's why I persisted for 5 hours, which was really exhausting. But anyway, I'm sharing this with you because this is a symbol of the sun's ingress into Aries. It's about giving birth to the new. Now, when we want to create new things in our life, we always have to clear things out to create the space. It's just how it is. So, anyway, that's what I did, which was a very powerful, cathartic experience for me, actually. And I just wanted to share that because it just came about randomly. There's lots to talk about today because I'm going to talk about the full moon in Libra as well. And well, let me just actually bring up the charts to start with. That way we can start to get some visuals. So this is today's chart, which is the 24th of March for me here in the Southern Hemisphere, or all of us in the Southern Hemisphere. And I will go back and forth a bit. So let's just go back to the 20th. We'll have to adjust that slightly. Okay, so there's the sun ingressing into Aries, which is the 20th of March this year. That was just 4 days ago. So, I personally can feel the momentum of the sun in Aries really starting to kind of push things out, push things through. I mean, I know the world still it's very different in so many ways, but it's very different for all of us relative to the conditions that we're all subjected to, okay, particularly around this matter that began in 2020, which I don't really want to use the name because I just rather not. We all know what we're talking about, though. And so yesterday they announced here, for instance, that masks will no longer need to be worn at all, pretty much, okay, except unless you're in hospital. That's it. That's a pretty big announcement and a pretty important progress and step forward for us as well. I haven't worn a mask anyway. You can make a judgment if you like. It doesn't matter to me. I have my own reasons as to why I haven't worn one, but that's another issue. Nevertheless, it is a massive thing that's happened here in this country for us. And this is the sun going into Aries. We're talking about new beginnings taking place. The new beginnings that are taking place, however, are obviously going to be in the context of the conditions that are in place at the moment. The sun goes into Aries every year. It's a rebirth and a new beginning every year without question. But we need to apply it into the field and the context and the environment that we are in, because that's how it's going to play out and show up and unfold, more or less. It's also the sun in Aries is, as I said, it marks the tropical zodiac is based on that, okay, based on 0 degrees Aries, 0 Libra, the cardinal points, basically, right? And the sun in Aries, ingressing into Aries, is actually the true new year, because the new year begins when the sun is at 0 degrees of Aries. So the man-made calendar relative to celebrating New Year, towards the end of the year, the 1st of January, that's a calendar that is man-made, more or less, okay? But in terms of the true, authentic new year, the new beginning, it's actually when the sun is at 0 degrees of Aries. And all astrologers know that, and all astrologers understand just how sacred and powerful the energy is when the sun ingresses into Aries. And so for me, this is like the new year for me. This is when my new year begins, as it were. And again, as I said, I'm an Aries, I'm a sun in Aries, so I feel this energy very, very strongly. Now, we can see here that Venus, I've gone back to the 20th of March, okay, and so Venus was getting ready to leave Pisces. And so as we progress forward, we will see that Venus now, by the 21st of March, actually, she got ingress into the sign of Aries, and so she's forming the conjunction to the sun. And what's happening here, and I'm going to talk about this with Ariel Gutman. It'll be Thursday for you guys, and it'll be my Friday, right? So it'll be uploaded on my channel. It's not going to be a live session for you guys as such, but it will be, uploaded on my YouTube channel. Thursday for you guys, Friday for anybody in the Southern Hemisphere. And so Ariel and myself will actually go quite deeply into this Aries Venus star, okay, which is coming up in just a couple of days' time. And so what we can see really from around about the 21st is the energy of the Sun and Venus already, coming together. Venus is being reborn into the evening star. So she's transitioning out of the morning to the evening star. So we have a Venus star point at the time when the Sun has ingressed into Aries as well. So there's lots of symbolism around Aries energy and very special, powerful, um, life-changing energy, really. It really is, and especially because of the Venus star point. But I don't want to talk about the Venus star point today, because Ariel and I will talk about that in length in a couple of days' time. So, you can always tune into that video to hear more about that. The point is, though, that we're going to just see this beautiful journey of the Sun and Venus really being together for quite a few days. It started from the 21st of March. And if you have a look here, that's where the Cazimi conjunction happens, actually on the 25th. It's the 25th. Okay, I'd need to adjust that by a few hours, but just imagine that Venus is at 5 Aries. So basically, as we proceed forward, we can see that the Sun and Venus, so they're still together. Venus is now starting to separate from the Sun, but essentially they're still together. As she approaches the Sun, she gives her beautiful magical kiss to the Sun, which is the Cazimi conjunction, which again I will talk about that with Ariel and what that potentially means, for the world and for all of us individually, because we can follow the star points in terms of our chart and just see whether they are hitting anything off, etc. Again, I will talk about that later. So very strong themes. Sun ingress into Aries. It's actually the true new year. It's the vernal equinox point. It's esoterically and astrologically and spiritually a very powerful time for rebirths that are occurring. This energy obviously gets projected onto the whole world, as it were, and then it plays out in our own personal life, depending on who we are, what our chart actually looks like, where this Sun ingress into Aries lands in our chart, and so forth. But wherever it is in your chart, it is a time of when the Sun ingresses into Aries, where the Sun takes us through this beautiful journey of rebirthing ourselves, really. Now, as we proceed forward, we're going to have a full moon in Libra as well. Before I go there, there's just a couple of other things I wanted to point to. And I want to read the Sabian symbol for the full moon, because it is just, it's really quite profound, really quite startling, the message that's there for us all. Okay, let me just see. Now, here's the other interesting thing that's going on. So if you have a look at this chart, I know it's quite a busy chart. I've got a lot of things in there, right? I've got all the major asteroids, and I've also got, this is Hygeia. So let me just get some assistance with drawing. I'll just get that one. So that's Hygeia, okay? Now, if you look at this part of the chart, okay, starting from there, that whole line that I've just drawn across, so you can see everything is held on one side, and it has been like that for quite some time. So disregard what's floating around up here for now, okay? Because I'm just paying attention to the planets, okay, with the nodes. So everything is inside of the nodes on this side. And what is actually happening is that Mars, as he's proceeded forward through Gemini, on this particular day anyway, 27th of March, he forms an exact conjunction to the North Node. Now, Mars is obviously the ruler of the Sun in Aries, okay? So it's the journey of Mars at the moment is quite significant from that level. because it's conjunct the North Node, which is our future direction, what we are stepping into and what we are gradually integrating. And it is the ruler of the sun. So there's an there's an exchange of energy there. It's the sun's dispositor, as it's called. Okay, it's also has been well. No, that won't be the case. Disregard the comment I was just about to make. Okay, so what's going to happen is as we proceed forward, let's just go to. I need to stop this thing here in order to change things. Okay, so the following day, which is the 28th of March, you can see Mars has now crossed over. Okay, he's left the area of being inside this whole ensemble happening over here. Pretty much everything is just held in between these two nodes. That's it's a pretty significant thing because there's a condensed, intensified sort of energy. Everything is held in the one sort of space. So there's this brewing, if you like, of things wanting to kind of take off, but there's been a sense of having to have to hold back, right? And of course, Mars is the planet that connects to our personal desires, our our ability to assert ourselves for the things that we wish to create, our goals and so forth. So now that Mars has gotten outside of that area and he's going to continue to proceed forward, right? So each day we go forward, Mars has clearly moved out of that whole area. And that's very important because the sun in Aries, which is a fire, cardinal, masculine sign, which is all about action, really, and its ruler, Mars, now being free from this whole zone here, is enabling us to actually take some probably what may feel like more productive steps towards where we are trying to walk towards, right, relative to our goals, the structure of our life, the things that we're trying to implement, integrate, and so forth. So that's another thing that's going on. Jupiter and Saturn are now becoming morning stars as they move further away from the sun. So let me just show you what that looks like. So you can see that they're rising up here, okay, and the sun's trailing behind them, okay. So there's the sun on the ascendant, for instance, and there's Jupiter and Saturn. They've already risen, so they're morning stars, right? That's another feature that's going on. And also what's going to happen through the month of April is that the sun is going to form a sextile to Jupiter and a sextile to Saturn, and that actually takes place. The sextile to Saturn is on the 1st of April. You can more or less see it there, okay? If we just go back one day, just go back into days. 1st of April, so there's the sun being sextile to Jupiter, and we'll just let the emergency people go by. And then by the 15th of April, sorry, I meant to say Saturn. Sun sextile Saturn, okay, and then by the 15th of April, the sun will be sextile Jupiter. And then by the 16th of April, the sun will be square to Pluto, all right, which is a pretty intense dynamic aspect, which is not necessarily easy. I would be very, very observant and aware of my actions around that day, particularly the 16th of April, because the sun in Aries, whilst it's exalted, it's a very powerful place for the sun. It does have that heated side to it, which can be quite impulsive, reactive, and not able to reflect, okay? Because Aries represents our instincts. It's just that instinctual desire to act on something pre-thought, right? And so we need to be aware of that when we have, in fact, while the sun's in Aries the whole time, there's all these really powerful experiences that we can have relative to, our own courage, willpower, the initiative ability, cardinal signs all connect to initiation, right? And so sometimes we need that sense of being able to feel that we can take the initiative on something, and taking the initiative is a very empowering experience, and we're not able to do that all the time. So there's lots of powerful energetic qualities about the sun in Aries, but when it comes to a square to Pluto, there's a sense of incredibly intense, dynamic, conflicting forces or energy that can be in play. And so on that day, if we were in a situation where we were trying to, let's just say you're trying to exert your will, and you were being really sort of impulsive or really rash with your actions, well, that might not be the way to go. It's something that you kind of really need to watch. On the other hand, it does provide tremendous willpower, and also the conflict can actually produce the necessary change as well. So we can look at it in both ways, but it is certainly an energy to be very mindful of on that day. Before that, though, the sun is going to be sextile Saturn and Jupiter, and sextiles are always about opportunity. The sextile aspect is, it's got a Venusian flavor to it because it produces harmony. Okay, it creates uh, two energies just flowing together, in an effortless way. There's no struggle, there's no conflict. It just naturally, organically takes place, and it's also opportunities and the right timing of things coming up as well. So those couple of days, well, rather the 1st of April and the 15th of April, and a day or two either side of those dates, are very, very fruitful relative to the sun in Aries in terms of your own initiation in your life at the moment, and perhaps what you're trying to step into and create, especially around Jupiter and Saturn type of matters as well, which is Saturn, the structure of your reality, which refers to what you're responsible for in your life as well, your commitments, your deadlines, all those things that could be in your personal life and or your professional life as well. And Jupiter is always about, of course, your ability to expand and grow further, push the envelope, as it were. But this energy, Sun sextile Jupiter, it's not a pushing, it's really just a natural organic flow of something presented that could be a very rewarding and enriching opportunity to you. Okay. As we go back, actually, let's go back to the okay, so it's a different date. Sorry, I'm just trying to, it's the 28th for you guys, okay? And it is the 29th for us in the southern hemisphere. And what I'm referring to is the full moon in Libra. Okay, so let me just draw another line here. So the full moon is actually, well, let's just get it exact. It's actually at 8 degrees, okay? So that's close enough. I would just like to erase, clear. Okay, so there's the moon in Libra, okay, at 8 degrees, and there's the sun at 8 degrees. So 8 degrees of Aries is obviously opposite 8 degrees of Libra. Now, I don't have it exact, it's a few minutes apart, but it's good enough. Basically, the moon and the sun will be at 8 degrees, okay. So this is a very important full moon because, first of all, the sun is ingressing into Aries, has rather already. Venus is ingressed into Aries. Now, the moon is in Venus's sign, okay, because Venus rules Libra. And so this opposition, the full moon is actually opposite Venus, Chiron, and the sun, okay. The Sabian symbol for 9 degrees of Libra is really spectacular, and I just would like to read it to you guys. Page 177. So the 9th degree of Libra is the degree that we go to. Let me just... So there's the full moon, okay. There's the sun on the left, there's the moon on the right. They're at 8 degrees. When you're using Sabian symbols, this is the book that I use, okay, which is called An Astrological Mandala by Dane Rudyard. There are other Sabian symbol books as well, but I particularly favor this one. When you are working with Sabian symbols, generally the rule is whatever degree you're looking at, you will go to the subsequent degree in the book, okay, to get the meaning out of the degree you're actually looking at. So in this case, we're looking at 8 degrees, okay, so we go to 9 degrees. That's how it works, generally speaking. This is beautiful. Okay, so the heading is 3 old masters hanging on the wall of a special room in an art gallery. Now, clearly that's got to do with the archetype Libra, being that it is ruled by Venus, which corresponds to art and art galleries, okay, and paintings on walls, as it were. The keynote, which is the really important thing to process here, is this: the need to return to source during a confused search for new value in a chaotic society. Now, I don't think we could have found a more apt or appropriate Sabian symbol message relative to where we are at the moment in life and in the world, because we have been experiencing a very chaotic world since the beginning of 2020, more or less. And so here's this full moon in Libra, which of course, just the full moon in Libra itself, it's a very interesting thing to consider, because the full moon, regardless of what sign it's in, archetypally corresponds to Libra anyway, okay? Because the full moon is what gives us that sense of clarity and illumination, awareness, objectivity, the ability to see clearly. And so here we have a full moon and in the sign of Libra. So it's kind of like a double signature of illumination, okay? And the Sabian symbol, which speaks to needing to return to source, the way I understand that is that this vibration, this energy is speaking to us from a very profound place in our heart, because we can take this back to the Venus star point, which occurred just a couple of days before the full moon, because Venus is the ruler of the full moon. And when you hear me discuss the Aries Venus star point with Ariel, you will hear us talk about Venus corresponding to the mind-heart connection, okay, and bringing in the necessary balance and harmony and love that the world actually really, really needs. And so here we have a full moon in Libra, which is highlighting that as well. It's a full moon. It's literally highlighting that energy all around us. It's a Venusian energy, okay? I just would like to read a bit further with the Sabian symbols. So then he says, there are always moments which focus in our minds the longing to reground ourselves in the great achievements of the past. The number 3 suggests completeness. Esoteric traditions speak of the threefold soul, or a 3 fundamental rays of power, of love, wisdom, and intelligence in action. And so the ray they're referring to there is ray number 2, because ray number 2 is love, wisdom, right, in esoteric astrology. Meditation, in its deepest sense, is a return to source, an attempt to re-identify oneself with one's archetypal essence of being, which is true in manifestation, and now, after confused but challenging wanderings, to identify oneself consciously with this essence. The finer forms of one's culture provide the means to do this. The great moments of the collective past become an inspiration for new yet sound beginnings. The seed of tomorrow salutes the seed of yesterday. What a beautiful and truly profound Sabian symbol for the times that we are in at the moment, and especially with a full moon in Libra, the sun ingressing into Aries, the Venus star point, being able to, I really love that particular line there, the seed of tomorrow salutes the seed of yesterday. Really, I mean, have a real think about that, take a moment to deeply reflect on what that might mean for you, and clearing things out is, it can be experienced in so many different ways. For me, as I said, I went through this process of clearing out messages that literally I could feel were attached to my etheric body and were draining me, literally draining me. And I don't know why I didn't do this before to that extent. I guess what happens is when you receive messages, which there are so many that I don't respond to because they're not what I would consider important messages to me, that they're just random people that I don't know who might send a picture or something or other. And it's just, I literally don't have that time to engage with thousands of messages, and nor do I want to, for that matter. So that was an accumulation of things over 9 years, as I said, and some of those in there were people that I knew from the past, as it were, but that are no longer connected in my life. And so it's we it, I really would like you guys to think about what is attached to you in your life, energetically, emotionally, and spiritually, and or physically as well, of course. And think about what those attachments are, and how because anything that's attached to you is literally attached to your spiritual body, your etheric body, your emotional body, and it weighs on you, especially spiritually. And the way that can play out over a long period of time is it starts to weigh your body down. And so that starts to bring up certain physical ailments. For instance, I mean, I've got a pretty chronic neck and back condition, which nobody would know just by looking at me. And, people just assume that whatever they assume. But, I've got something that which was caused by an accident, by the way. But that's something that can connect to weighing me down as well. When I'm leaving things in my life that are no longer part of my growth moving forward, part of my soul's evolution moving forward, part of my mental and emotional and physical well-being. And so we forget about things, or we push things aside. We just kind of hide things out of our conscious mind, as it were. But everything that's there around you in some kind of way is attached to you in some kind of way, and that is a weighing on you, literally, physically. So I'm emphasizing this because even that Sabian symbol, it's referring to that as well. When you think about what I said, you may have to listen to it a couple of times, but it is talking about releasing and letting go and allowing the old seeds of yesterday, to completely leave, because the new seeds of tomorrow, they're already there, as it were, and our consciousness is starting to somehow make a connection to that. And that's what the sun in Aries produces as well. It produces this sense of wanting to really clear things out, make a fresh start in your life with certain things. And it's a very, very empowering experience to go through. I mean, again, because I'm a sun in Aries, I have those experiences relatively frequently in my life anyway. But certainly when the sun ingresses into Aries, it's like this energy just becomes so intense inside me. I can literally feel that sun in Aries just wanting to radiate and shine on everything in my life. And it gets me to focus and really look at, what am I doing? What am I engaged in? What am I connected to? What's attached to me? And so these are things to really consider, in my opinion, as we go through the journey of the sun being in Aries, because nothing is permanent. And thank goodness, in a lot of senses that that is indeed the case. Um, so, in short, we have new births, new beginnings, initiation, Venus star point lighting things up for us. And it's because it's at 5 degrees of Aries, it's a repeat of the star point that occurred 4 years ago in 2017. We had the same star point in Aries at it was 4 degrees and 50 minutes or something like that. So it's barely moved. Okay. So just something to think about, which again, I will talk about this with Ariel in greater depth and detail, but think about what was going on 4 years ago. You can make a connection to from then, from 2017 till now as well, relative to the Venus Aries star point. The full moon in Libra, it is about bringing in more love and beauty and harmony and balance into your life. As much as that sounds really basic, it's not basic. We need to really reflect on that. It's a full moon in Libra. It's trying to bring our consciousness and our ability to be completely aware of where do we have balance or imbalances in our life. How can we bring more harmony and love and beauty and balance into our life? And the Venus star point is just, it's just completely highlighting that. Okay. And lots of other things. The sun is conjunct Chiron during this full moon. So it's it's an interesting energy. Okay, it's interesting because Venus, okay, traditionally speaking, Venus is in her detriment in Aries. So without considering her as a star point at the moment, just Venus in Aries is not the strongest place for her. But when we're looking at her from the point of view of being a Venus star point, it's a completely different picture, okay? Perception and experience. Nevertheless, Venus is in detriment. Chiron is there as well. So we're really addressing issues around self-worth, aren't we? Venus, self-worth, relationships. Chiron, relationships that have wounded us in the past, relationships that we may be in at the moment that are serving as something that's healing our heart or something that's wounding our heart. It is something that we need to address. All of us have had our heart hurt in some kind of way by something or someone throughout our life. And again, this comes back to what's attached to our heart. What is attached to our heart chakra, or all the chakras for that matter, that connects to pain or trauma, okay, or things that we have struggled to forgive, that they're still attached to us. And so I see this full moon as a beautiful symbolic and almost literal, you could say, opportunity to highlight to us the matters that are imbalanced in our life relative to our love, our heart, and our ability to love and our ability to forgive, right? If we can't forgive, there's an old Buddhist saying, I think it's a Buddhist saying. What is it? It's hating somebody, or, being resentful towards somebody is like, it's like throwing hot charcoal fireballs at them and expecting them to be hurt, but the only thing that's happening is that you're swallowing those. It doesn't go exactly like that. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but the message basically is that holding on to pain and resentment is doing nothing to that other person but hurting ourselves and keeping us energetically attached to something that's very toxic and very painful. So this full moon is an ability to dig deep, and recognize what those sorts of patterns may be that still exist, just even as a memory, as a thought, as something that you've not worked through. Okay. Because Chiron and the sun and Venus, it's love, Venus, the sun, your central core identity and your spirit. And Chiron is there to say, okay, let's do some more healing around your heart and your ability to love and receive love. And the full moon in Libra is just shining the balance that needs to happen in your life on that level. So how are you going to interact with that? How are you going to integrate that awareness during this full moon is entirely up to you. But these are the messages and the signatures that I see relative to this full moon. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here. I didn't want to spend too much time today because I'm a little bit busy. Let me just see. There is a Mercury Neptune conjunction as well during this time. Let's see when it actually becomes exact. There's a fly in here. I don't like flies, but I never kill them. um, yeah, so it's pretty much. Oh, it's around about the 29th, 30th, 1st of April, 29th, 30th of March, 1st of April. We've got a Mercury Neptune conjunction. Now, I think I briefly touched on that when I did the Mercury being conjunct Pallas Athena, but, let's just bring that into the story of this full moon chart, even though this is, a couple of days after the full moon. If we go back to the full moon, which is round about there, the Mercury Neptune conjunction is most definitely in play. And so that's a very interesting planetary conjunction. I think we need to be pretty careful around our perceptions during this time as well, because even though I've spoken about the Chiron being there with this full moon as, the recognition and ability to see our own heart wounds and soul wounds and how we can address that, right? To do some healing, to bring greater balance and harmony and beauty and love, to open our heart. Well, Mercury Neptune can be very tricky with the ability to see what's real and what isn't. So this energy in here on a spiritual level, it's phenomenal because it's opening up the psychic centers. It's opening the third eye. It's downloading information from source. And the Sabian symbol, what did it say? It said that this is a time to return back to source due to the nature of the chaotic life we've been living of late. So it's literally saying, trust, the source of which you come from. And Mercury Neptune is that. It's the source of information that intuitively can be received and experienced. But on the other hand, Mercury and Neptune can be blatant deception and lying as well. So, these energies can manifest in a number of different ways. It's not just one way or two ways only. It's not black and white. So I guess what I'm saying is that you may need to be careful as well with regards to perhaps being misinformed or misinforming others with certain information during this time as well. That might just be a very important thing relative to the context of this full moon in Libra vibration. Okay, all right. I think I will leave it there. So I will upload a video on Thursday for you guys, Friday for me, on the Venus Aries star point, which I'm so excited about, with Ariel Gutman, she is really the pioneer for the body of work around the Venus star point. She didn't create the Venus star point because the Venus star point has been there for infinity, but her devotion and her brilliant mind has gifted the world really with the body of work that she has produced around understanding the Venus star point and how to work with it. And I feel, I mean, my astrological wisdom and knowledge has grown and expanded so much in the last, probably in the last 4 years specifically. And part of that is because of the work of Ariel Gutman in terms of what she has produced. I mean, her books and her training program, which we'll talk about that during the discussion with her, it has enriched my practice, actually, is what I'm trying to say when I'm working with people. So a Venus star point reading is quite different to just looking at your natal Venus in your chart. It's working with the Venus star point with your birth chart, which brings a whole other level and dimension into your understanding of Venus in your chart and what the Venus star point means, and all the other points, because there's 5 points in total. And I do Venus star point readings now because I've had enough time to work with the wisdom and the knowledge, and so on and so forth. So that could be something you may be interested in as well, in terms of getting in touch with me, or whatever other reading you may have in mind. Now, I know that I was supposed to have my next Venus class ready, and I already apologized the last time because I was late, and here I am apologizing again because I'm still late. And there's I'm not going to justify it. All I'm going to say is I apologize that I haven't had it ready for you guys, but I will. And that's a given. Okay. um, there are just things sometimes in life that happen. you know Things happen to you as well, don't they? Right, to all of us. So here we are. Okay, I will see you guys very, very soon, and sending you a lot of love, a lot of blessings. Um, a happy full moon in Libra, a beautiful journey with the sun's ingress into Aries. I hope you feel courageous enough to face whatever it is you need to face in your life, and initiate what needs to be initiated, to give a sense of rebirth into your own evolution. See you guys soon. Thanks for watching.